It was on August the 2nd, 1989, that the entire Jack family went missing. Joining us today is Marlene Jack, the sister of Doreen Jack, who was the mother of the family.
Well, here I am on my hike up here in the mountains north of Las Vegas.
We all know the story. Someone vanishes without a trace. But what if those disappearances weren't accidents? What if they all began with a single encounter? A stranger whose smile hid something darker. Tonight, we're uncovering 5 chilling true cases where people disappeared after crossing paths with someone they should have never trusted. Each story peels back the curtain on how quickly an ordinary moment can spiral into the unthinkable. And as you watch, ask yourself, could it happen to you? Because after these stories, you'll never look at a passing stranger the same way again. Lars Mittank. Lars Mittank was a normal guy. He was on vacation in Bulgaria, enjoying the sunshine with friends, when everything went horribly wrong. On the last day of his trip, things took a strange turn. Lars got into an argument. He was hit in the head during a fight, and his behavior changed completely. Something about that injury made him paranoid. He started saying people were following him, that someone was out to get him. But here's where it gets weird. He was supposed to fly home, but instead he ran into a hospital. He saw a doctor who cleared him to fly. But Lars couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was after him. So he did the unthinkable. He checked out of the hospital, grabbed his bags, and bolted. He ran to the airport, and things went downhill fast. Lars never boarded his flight, and the last time anyone saw him, he was running out of the airport, looking like a man desperate to escape. What happened next? Lars left his luggage behind, sprinted out of the terminal, and ran straight into the woods. It's all caught on camera. The footage shows Lars making a wild dash, but he's not running from a person. He's running from something invisible. Or is it just his mind playing tricks on him? No one knows. His story doesn't end there. Despite searches, Lars was never found. His disappearance remains one of the most chilling mysteries, leaving us with one terrifying question. What was he running from? And just as Lars disappeared into the shadows, another family became a target.
It was on August the 2nd, 1989, that the entire Jack family went missing. Joining us today is Marlene Jack, the sister of Doreen Jack, who was the mother of the family.
The Jack family. It was the year 1989, and the Jack family of British Columbia was struggling. Ronnie Jack, the father, had a wife, Doreen, and 2 young children. Financially tight, they lived in a small town, doing the best they could to make ends meet. One evening, as Ronnie was at a local pub, he met a man who would change their lives forever. The stranger offered him a well-paying job at a remote logging camp, a lifeline for the Jack family. The job was supposed to be temporary, but the stranger promised it would help get them back on their feet. The stranger seemed charming enough. He offered a place for their kids to stay, arranged for transportation, and even offered to pay up front. Ronnie, desperate to provide for his family, felt this was the opportunity he couldn't miss. The family agreed, and early the next morning, they packed up their things and headed off. Ronnie, Doreen, and the 2 children left their home with the stranger, climbing into his truck for what they thought would be a fresh start. But after that, they were never seen again. Days passed, then weeks, with no word from the Jack family. The stranger, who had promised him a future, had vanished without a trace. Ronnie's friends became suspicious when they learned that no logging camp had been expecting them, and no records existed of any such job offer. This didn't seem like a legitimate offer. It felt like a trap. And that's when the realization hit. The family had walked straight into something much darker than they could have ever imagined.
I did a private search. I received a tip that there was a sighting up on a mountain way up, sort of like north of PG, I think.
Searches turned up no leads. The Jack family simply disappeared, as if they'd been swallowed by the land itself. Some say the stranger was a con man who lured them to their deaths. while others believe something more sinister was involved. No body, no sign, just the eerie silence of a family vanishing without a trace. But what if the stranger wasn't just a man, but something much more dangerous? Now, let's take a look at another disappearance, one that involves a mysterious figure deep in the desert.
Turn this off, and if I find the cave, I'll be turning it back on. Bye-bye.
Kenny Veach. Kenny Veach was no stranger to the wilderness. A seasoned hiker and YouTuber, he loved exploring the uncharted corners of the Nevada desert, documenting his adventures for a small following. But there was one expedition that would haunt him forever. In 2014, Kenny made a bold claim. He had found a cave shaped like the letter M, deep in the Nevada desert. He said that when he stood near the cave, his body would shake uncontrollably, as if some strange force was emanating from the cave itself. He described the area as feeling alive, like it was trying to communicate with him. In one of his videos, Kenny explained that he had to go back to find this cave and explore it further. He was excited, but also deeply disturbed by what he had experienced. He promised his viewers that he would return to the location and film his next adventure, revealing the secrets of the cave. But he also made it clear, something wasn't right about this place. Something had been watching him.
Well, here I am on my hike up here in the mountains north of Las Vegas.
On November 10th, 2014, Kenny set off for that cave once again. This would be his final trip. He picked up his gear, turned on his camera, and ventured into the desert alone. He told his girlfriend he'd be back the next day, but he never returned. His last communication was a phone call to her, telling her that he was close to the cave. He promised to call again soon, but that was the last anyone had heard from him.
But they're not the kind of cave I'm looking for. The kind of cave I'm looking for is deep, and it's dark, and it's
What followed was a search that spanned miles of unforgiving terrain. His car was found at the edge of the desert, but there were no signs of him, no trace of his body, no footprints leading away. But what chilled investigators and viewers alike was the eerie feeling that Kennedy had been running from something. He'd reported strange noises and odd occurrences around the cave. But what if it wasn't just the wind or his imagination? What if something in the desert had gotten to him?
Well, I'm in the canyon, and I haven't found the cave, but look what I did find.
Some believe Kenny was taken by a force beyond comprehension. Others believe he was simply lost in the vast wilderness. Either way, his disappearance remains one of the most unsettling unsolved mysteries on the internet. Now, we'll explore a chilling case of a young woman who vanished in the middle of a quiet neighborhood. It was a cool autumn evening in 1953 when 15-year-old Evelyn Hartley took a babysitting job that would turn into one of the most haunting mysteries of her time. The family she was hired to watch lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary when she arrived at the home, and everything appeared peaceful. Evelyn had no way of knowing that this seemingly routine job would be her last. The evening started like any other. She put the children to bed and went about her duties. But by 10:30 p.m., something strange occurred. Neighbors reported hearing a scream, a piercing sound that shattered the stillness of the night. But when they went to check, there was no sign of trouble. Everything looked normal. The lights in the house were still on, and nothing seemed amiss from outside. No one could have known then that Evelyn was already gone, and the nightmare had begun. It wasn't until later that night, when the parents returned home, that they realized something was wrong. Evelyn had vanished without a trace. The front door was locked. The house was in perfect order, but there was no sign of her. The children she'd been babysitting were still safely asleep upstairs. There was no sign of forced entry and no trace of a struggle, which made it all the more confusing. The police were called immediately, and the investigation began. However, the case only grew stranger. When searching the surrounding neighborhood, authorities found odd tire tracks near the back of the house, but no one could make sense of them. The only clue left behind was a single shoe found on the front lawn, eerily untouched by the night's events. Neighbors reported seeing a dark car speeding away from the area, but no one could identify the driver. Despite months of searching and even a nationwide appeal, Evelyn Hartley was never found. Theories about what happened to Evelyn vary. Some suspect she was abducted by a stranger who had been watching her from afar. Others think she might have been taken by someone she knew, perhaps someone with a hidden agenda. But the most chilling part? The fact that she was snatched from the safety of a quiet home in a neighborhood where nothing unusual ever happened. No trace of Evelyn has ever been found, and the mystery surrounding her disappearance remains unsolved to this day. But what if the next disappearance wasn't by human hands at all? The next case will leave you questioning if we're truly alone. Ruth Wilson. In 1995, 16-year-old Ruth Wilson left her home in Surrey, England for what seemed like a normal day.
The case of Ruth Wilson really affected me. It was so unusual, such a peculiar and mysterious case of a 16-year-old who went missing in the Surrey Hills in 1995.
Ruth was a quiet and thoughtful teenager who enjoyed spending time outdoors. And on this day, she decided to go for a walk in the scenic Box Hill, a popular hiking spot near her home. She was dropped off at the foot of the hill by a taxi driver.
The taxi driver says he drove off and he watched her standing there. So she either didn't want the taxi driver to see where she was going to go, or she was waiting to meet somebody who was going to pick her up in the car.
Who recalled noticing something strange as he left her there. Ruth seemed to be waiting for someone. She didn't leave immediately and appeared to look around, as though expecting someone to arrive. What's particularly eerie about Ruth's disappearance is that she didn't seem worried. She wasn't in any distress. It seemed as though she was simply waiting for someone. The taxi driver, who saw Ruth standing near the entrance to Box Hill, drove off, unaware that it would be the last time anyone would see her. Hours later, when Ruth failed to return home, her parents became concerned and reported her missing. The police launched a search, but Ruth's trail was baffling. She was last seen standing near the foot of Box Hill.
I've spoken to the Surrey police. They've pulled back. They are worried that what we are doing is going to be critical of them. They're worried that we're looking back at the original investigation and we're going to say that there are flaws in it. It's a little bit disappointing. We're simply going to have to go down a different route.
But there were no signs of a struggle or any indication of where she went. What made her disappearance even more puzzling was that there were no traces of Ruth on the hill itself. No footprints, no signs of her running, no messages left behind.
With the name of the school, I've managed again on Facebook to find him. I mean, it's not the most sophisticated of investigative techniques. I would very much like to talk to you about a story I'm researching into a missing persons case from 1995.
As the investigation deepened, new information came to light. A few days later, a witness claimed to have seen a girl who resembled Ruth in a nearby town, asking for directions to a newsagent's shop. The sighting was never confirmed to be Ruth, but it suggested that she may have been in a state of confusion, or even distress, just before vanishing.
I was trying to get myself sorted, so didn't really have enough time to help her as well.
Once you'd gone, did you hear from Ruth again?
No, it was obviously a time without mobile phones, so I was ringing my parents 2 or 3 times a week. They told me that Ruth had gone missing shortly after I'd gone.
Ruth's disappearance has remained unsolved for decades. Some speculate that she may have met someone she trusted or expected to see on that day, but the truth remains chillingly out of reach. The mystery of Ruth Wilson raises terrifying questions about how easily we can vanish, even in the middle of a busy world, with no one the wiser. 5 people, 5 chilling vanishings, and still, we're left with more questions than answers. Was it the strangers they encountered, or something darker waiting for them just beyond the edge of their vision? What do you think? If you're still haunted by these disappearances, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Who knows? the answers might just be closer than we think. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the shadows.